Several high-profile races right here in the city, including the very crowded race for New York's 12th congressional district. That seat currently held by Congressman Jerry Nadler, who's retiring after this term. So today we're continuing our conversations with the candidates. George Conway is my guest. And Mr. Conway, great to have you here on Picks and Politics. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
And I want to get into kind of the affordability aspect of it all off the top right now, because the budget talks in New York are all the talk right now between the state and the city. The mayor wants to tax the wealthy to kind of pay for a lot of things happening in New York City. It's a very local issue, but it does affect your district. Are you in favor of taxing the wealthy?
Yeah, I'm absolutely in favor of taxing the wealthy. A question of whether or not the pied-à-terre tax is the right way to do it, I'm not so sure. I think it sounds good, but on the other hand, there are issues about valuations and so on and so forth. I mean, the most important thing that can happen, I think, to New York from my standpoint as a running for public office and running for federal public office, I mean, is that I think we have to restore the state and local tax deduction, because I think that has absolutely SALT, because I think that absolutely was one of the first things that Donald Trump did during his first term to really attack blue states, and it punishes New York City for providing a higher level of government service than other places, and it's completely unfair to people in New York, because New Yorkers pay more than their fair share of federal taxes. So I think from my standpoint as a potential federal legislator, I would focus on that, and that's something I think that would help the affordability crisis, because it would help the economy here and help people be able to afford their lives, because they don't have to, they don't have to pay extra taxes.
Yeah, the reason I ask about the local wealthy tax is because it's really becoming a national conversation of should millionaires or billionaires across the country be taxed, which would be on the federal level. So would you support it on a larger level across the country?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things that we have to look at, and I don't consider myself a federal tax expert. I took tax in law school, but one of the issues is that, you can have somebody investing in stocks like a big growth company, and God bless them for creating a growth company, but then they get to borrow money against that stock, and then the money they borrow, and then they spend on whatever yachts or whatever that's backed by the stock, they don't pay taxes on it. It's effectively income. It's effectively a way of advancing capital gains without paying capital gains tax. And I think we have to take a very, very serious look at that kind of legislation to tax some of that in a fair manner. That when the rest of us sell our stocks, we take a huge hit. And because we don't have that huge pile of stock that we can just borrow money from and not pay taxes until, I don't know, we die.
Yeah, I want to talk about why you decided that this was the time for you to run, right? This is a seat held by Jerry Nadler. He's been an institution in this market, in this district for quite some time. Why you felt that you wanted to run for this seat in particular and at this time?
Well, because look, I mean, I've been a lawyer. I practiced law here for 3 decades. I made my career here, and I made my career off of the rule of law, and the rule of law is being threatened like never before by the Trump administration. Our democracy is being threatened like never before by Donald Trump, and Trump is really running a government for, not of the people, by the people, and for the people, but of the boss, by the boss, and for the boss. It's essentially, it's essentially a criminal enterprise, and I don't think we've been tough enough on that regard. And I don't think we've been tough enough on calling that out, including Democrats. And I just feel that there's a need for accountability that I think can be achieved principally by investigations and ultimately impeachment and removal of this criminal president. And that's where I come in as a lawyer who's litigated, conducted investigations for 3 decades here in New York. I think I have a special talent for that, and I've stood up to Donald Trump, and I think in ways that other people never have and never will. And so I think this is the moment at this point in time for somebody like me to come in, and I had a full career as a lawyer. This is not something I don't want to be. I spent 30 years in Congress. God bless Jerry Nadler having done that. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I think I want to get in for a term to get rid of the guy, and then a term to create basically an American legal reconstruction of passing laws to make sure that this kind of autocratic threat. Yeah, and that's it. And, I mean, I'm going to do the best I can during those 2 terms, and then, the young people like Jack and everybody can come in there, and hopefully we'll have made America relatively normal again, and, I will have given back to New York what I've received from it, which
it's
was a
interesting, because you're
tremendous
talking about doing just 2 terms, which kind of brings me to the conversation of term limits. Should congressional members be term limited?
I go back and forth on that. I think there's some merit to having people who are just incredibly experienced, and if somebody is representing a district well, they should stay on. But on the other hand, I do think it results in a certain cautiousness as people are not thinking. They're thinking about, okay, if I do this, am I damaging my brand for my next job, or damaging my political brand? And that's sort of my advantage in this race, and my advantage as somebody who's going to fight Trump is that, I don't give a what about that. It's I mean, people are going to have to take. If I lose, I lose. Great, I congratulate the winner and I move on. It's not my career.
What do you think of the field?
I think the field is great. I think these are. I mean, I've talked to most of the candidates, and I think they're just a very good bunch of people who really have different strengths and different emphases, and are really well-meaning people who want to contribute and make our country and make our lives better. And I really appreciate that.
The reason I ask that is because the Democratic Party as a whole, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. You're against the socialist wing of the party.
Yeah, I mean, I share. Yeah, I mean, I share the goals. I mean, I think, I think Mayor Mamdani, for example, deserves a lot of credit for articulating the concerns that and responding to the concerns that New Yorkers rightfully have about affordability and other issues that affect their day-to-day lives. And I want to help find solutions to that. I think there are practical solutions and practical compromises that can be worked out with people, who are to the left of me and to the right of me. That we actually share a lot of the same goals. I mean,
so you don't oppose the socialist wing?
No, I want to work with them.
Okay.
I want to work with them. I think it's a question of what are practical solutions.
Yeah. Who is the face of the Democratic Party? If you were to become a member of Congress, who is the House Speaker if the Democrats win?
Well, I'm going to support Speaker Jeffries. I assume he's going to run. But I'll support whoever the majority supports.
Yeah.
I think Speaker Jeffries is a very talented guy, and it's a difficult thing managing a fractious caucus. You don't want to get too far ahead of them, but you have to show leadership, and it's a very tricky thing. He does it very well, and I think I can help because I think I can push a little more aggressively on one and create some running room for people to be more aggressive on beside me.
All right, George Conway, we're going to leave it there, giving everybody equal time. Looking forward to having you here for the debate that we're hosting.
Thank you.